Vettel deserved his penalty. Well, before I get into the reasons why, I just want to quickly address why I'm in my car. As you can see, it's chucking down with the rain. The British weather came through on my video that was supposed to be outdoors, so we're doing it in my car instead. This will do. But anyway, Sebastian Vettel then, what a race he had, and what an eventful aftermath we had after his mistake. Wow, I've not known controversy like this in Formula 1 for a number of years, probably since the Hamilton-Rosberg days, and let's face it, we all kind of love it really, don't we? We love a bit of drama, especially if you're on Twitter, and if you're not, I suggest you do get on Twitter and give me a cheeky follow. And it was great to see. This is what we all love sport for. Any sport is all about the dramas, it's about the human nature of it, and it was great. But anyway, why do I think Vettel deserves a penalty, and why does that make this video controversial? Well, I think, first of all, let's run through the incident. So first of all, Vettel made a mistake. That is fundamental to this whole thing. I think Vettel made a mistake. This wasn't a, technical infringement. Vettel made a mistake. It was a driving error that Vettel made. He locked up the rears a little bit, pushing hard with Hamilton pressuring him lap after lap after lap, locked the brakes a bit of oversteer across the grass. First of all, it's great that there was grass there. I think, we'd have all been moaning almost just as much if Vettel just got away with that mistake. So it's great there was grass there, and he was punished a little bit by that. Ran over the grass. Couldn't do a lot over the grass. Fair enough, he couldn't give any room over the grass. Just had to trundle across the grass, wait for the tarmac. Now, the first key point for me that means he deserves his penalty is that he got on the power almost immediately after he got back on the track. Now, the rule is, and the rule should stay, by the way, is that you have to rejoin the track safely. You can't rejoin the track in an unsafe manner. Now that rule cannot change. You can't have cars flying across the grass and not worrying and just flying back onto the racing line. It'll be so dangerous. That rule can't change. How harshly you deal with that rule maybe can change, but the rule cannot change. I don't think that's really up for debate, in all honesty. But the thing for me is that Vettel, as soon as he rejoined the track, he got back on the power. Like I said, you can't really fault him for that. He's a racing driver. I think every driver on the grid would have done that. He's in the lead of the race, he's under pressure, he's thinking, I've really got to keep this. Of course, as soon as he gets back on the tarmac, he's going to apply the throttle and just get a bit of oversteer and really try and keep back up to speed. I can't blame him for it, but it was a bit unsafe, because the result of him doing that was getting that second kick of oversteer, which is most people's reason for him not deserving a penalty, is that he was out of control. He had grass on his tyres. He couldn't control the car. He had to drift off the track, over the track. And yeah, but that was because, first of all, because he made a mistake, but because he reapplied the power. Now, he could have stayed left a bit more. He could have not reapplied the power so aggressively, so he wouldn't have got so much oversteer and was able to leave Hamilton more room. And then there wouldn't have been an issue, but he chose to reapply the power to get back up to speed. That caused him the oversteer, and that caused him to use most of the track. So that was his problem. It wasn't just the grass and stuff, and even if it was, that was his mistake. Now, the other part of it is that once he regained control, Hamilton could probably have just about squeezed through that gap. It was tight. Once he regained control, what he should have done is Hamilton's alongside me, I'm going to leave him a bit more room. Instead, what he did, and what we've seen Vettel do, people looking at me, what we've seen Vettel do time after time is bend the rules. Vettel is known for, very grey areas. He always finds grey areas in the rules with track limits and things like that. He's always pushing the limits of the rules, which most drivers should do. It's what Verstappen's done. It's what the greats do. But what I think this is the real reason, this is how he could have avoided it, regardless of panicking, get back on the power. So he was back on the track. He'd regained control. He was now steering to the left to steer away from the wall. He looked at his mirror, saw Hamilton was alongside him, straightened his wheel. So he headed back towards the wall to squeeze Hamilton, because of course he didn't want to let Hamilton pass, but he'd already made the mistake, so he's now trying to recover from this mistake. Straightened the wheel and tried to squeeze Hamilton a bit, which is what then caused Hamilton to have to brake on and exit the corner and back off and let him through, okay? It's those two things. He could have not joined the track so aggressively, but actually I think every driver would have done that because they're desperate to get back up to speed, fair enough. But it's that second one for me, really, is that he could have avoided it. He could have then gone, regain control, turn to the left, give Hamilton some space, because he knew that he was coming right across the racing line. This was a bit dangerous. And actually, I could be about to crash here. I'm going to give him some space. But he didn't. He squeezed him. He tried to keep the position. And it's racer's instinct. It's more so Vettel's instinct, I find, than anyone else, because Vettel is, you know, as I said, known for being aggressive with the rules and known for being quite cheeky and pushing the limits everywhere. So, yeah, I mean, that's my main reason, really. And then, of course, Hamilton had to slam on the brakes and Vettel got away with it. And I think, as I said, let's not forget Vettel made a mistake. He made a mistake. This isn't a rule out of nowhere. He made a mistake, came across the grass, applied a bit too much power, oversteer, pushed him over onto the racing line, then squeezed Hamilton further. That's the key thing. Now, the rules are that you can't rejoin the track unsafely. When you leave the track, you have to rejoin safely. That's a good rule. I don't think that should change. I don't think the grass should be replaced. I think it's great that both the grass and the wall were there. We don't like drivers being able to abuse track limits. And I think a penalty was fair. I think I should make that part clear. A penalty, keywording being A, because I do believe that the penalty was a bit harsh. Unfortunately, that is the lightest penalty that the stewards are able to give, a 5-second penalty. But I think Formula One should introduce a MotoGP style penalty whereby they can just tell the driver to drop behind the car. Now, in this case, that would have been perfect because there was a big gap behind Hamilton. So if they just said, look, we believe you've broken a rule, please drop behind Hamilton, Vettel would have moaned, obviously. The issue then is that Vettel might have then ignored it, and if he did, then it should be an automatic 5-second penalty. Or even disqualification, actually, if you ignored a steward's request. Anyway, he should have dropped behind the car. That should have been the penalty. But if he did that, we would have still had a race, you know? Then Vettel would have been all over Hamilton. The roles would have been reversed, but Vettel had better straight line speed. And then we would have got another 10 or 15 laps or whatever it was of racing. But instead, of course, what we got was Hamilton staying behind. You know, why would Hamilton risk overtaking? He's not going to risk Vettel squeezing him off or using more engine or anything like that. Why would he do it? All he has to do is stay within 5 seconds, and then that killed the race. I think that was a bigger issue. It robbed us of a titanic battle that we were seeing. It was great racing, by the way. It was a great race. I loved it. And I think that's the main issue here is the size of the penalty. You know, no one, I should say, I did tweet it out, no one should lose a penalty or lose a race rather in the stewards room unless you've done something really bad. Nobody likes to see that. It's not good, but it is what it is. He made a mistake. The penalty was a bit harsh. It is what it is. But as it says on the title, please prove me wrong down in the comments. And I just want to cover as well some of the events after the race. So of course, Vettel just refused to go to the top 3 Parc Fermé. He just parked up in the normal Parc Fermé, then pushed his car back into it. Then walked straight to his garage. He was probably thinking of refusing to go up on the podium or refusing to park because, you know, it is hard for him, of course. He's very frustrated. Went back into the garage and I tweeted out, I wonder what the penalty is for avoiding the podium ceremony, because I think he was thinking of boycotting the podium over this penalty he got. But I reckon, I don't know, I've not checked the rules, let me know if anyone knows, but I reckon probably the rules of boycotting a podium is pretty severe, probably disqualification from the event or something. It would be pretty severe because the podium is just a part of Formula One. So he, of course, got convinced to come back out, and then when he came back out, swapped the signs. I love that. Some people were saying, oh, it was childish and it was, you know, unsportsmanlike, and yeah, it was, but this is a sport. It's adrenaline, it's emotion. It's why we love Formula One. It's why we love any sport. This is the sort of stuff we want to see. You know, Hamilton knew that he was frustrated. It wasn't anything against Hamilton. It was just a bit of a protest to what he believed a race that he should have won, and swapped the boards, and I loved that. I was nothing against that at all. That's great. I think where you have to draw the line at those emotional responses is when, like a few years ago, he swore at Charlie Whiting and said he's an idiot and all this stuff. You can't do personal attacks, you know, as much as, you know, even on Twitter, nobody should personally attack the stewards. That's not right. But I thought what he did was great. Then up in the podium room, that was so awkward. I loved it. It made me laugh so much with Hamilton just sat there, just drinking his drink like, this is so awkward. Oh my God, the 2 Ferrari drivers just stare at him. Of course, you know, Hamilton did nothing wrong. Let's not forget about that. He drove a great race. But it was just so awkward. And then up on the podium, nice little gesture by Hamilton to pull him up onto the top step. But I do believe there's been some sort of penalty. I think was it Schumacher and Barrichello, was it, a few years ago, or a lot of years ago, where he pulled him up onto the top step, or they swapped steps or something like that, and he got quite a harsh penalty. It might have been a financial one. I can't remember what the penalty was, but I remember it was quite harsh. So I think, you know, good on Hamilton to pull him up, but also good on Vettel to go, actually, you know, I will step down. And I think Vettel was actually very fair on Hamilton. He didn't, you know, even defending him on the podium. So all that was great. And then, you know, just it was all like a pantomime, wasn't it? It was all so much emotion and drama and adrenaline, and it was all just, we were all just like reveling in it on Twitter. And you know, again, if you're not on Twitter, definitely go on Twitter, because these sort of events, it just adds so much. Everyone's just losing their mind, and there's gifs flying around, and there's memes being made already, and it's just, you've got to be on Formula One. Sorry, you've got to be on Twitter and to follow the Formula One people. And again, do drop me a follow. But anyway, then I think that covers off this issue, and let me know what you think. And as I said, please do feel free to try and prove me wrong. This is what makes a sport, is debate. Try and prove me wrong. Let me know if you do think that Vettel did deserve his penalty, or he didn't deserve his penalty, and why. Let's have a nice debate down in the comments, and I thank you all for watching. Bye bye.